Hi,
Pretty
hi.
good.
Hello, welcome everyone. If you are here in the comments, please say hello so we know that we can shout it and say hi. I am so excited today to introduce, one familiar face and one new face. DJ Rap is back with us again today, who was with us earlier this week. And also very excited to introduce Juliet Sikora, who we've known at Record Shop for a long time. I think you were in one of the very first drops, if I'm
Yes,
not
it was.
mistaken. Yeah,
Yeah, it was.
so I'm
Exactly.
so happy to finally we get to meet you and get to learn a little bit more about you, especially through this mentorship program. And shortly we'll have Obi join us as well. So I'm very excited. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
So today we are going to talk about our mentorship program that we're kicking off. So 5 women are going to be welcomed to come and talk with our team of mentors. Today we're just showing off a couple of our mentors because we do have more in the pipeline. But these women are going to have a chance to work with these mentors through some workshops and eventually release their tracks on Record Shop as an NFT, which is super cool, super fun, and we can't wait to kick it off. And I thought we would just get started today and get to know both of you a little bit more. Could you just give an introduction to anybody who might not know you yet? Why don't we start with DJ Rap?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's DJ Rap. I am a artist, producer, singer-songwriter, and also actor. And I basically, my thing is synthesizing and messing around with multi-genres and splicing them all together and doing anything I can that isn't staying within the coloring lines pretty much. But in England, I'm more known for jungle, drum and bass, and in the States, more for my electronic album Learning Curve and more pop electronica. And in Europe, a little bit more on the techno side. So a lot of different stuff, but that's pretty much me. I also own a label, 2 labels, and I run my own labels, and I've designed music courses. And yeah, that's pretty much all I do. It's quite a lot.
Just a couple
I'm
of things.
tired.
Thanks, and Juliet.
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Juliet Sikora, also known as Katzi. I'm a DJ producer from Germany. I run the label Kitbor Records and Zane. Yeah, I'm in the scene since the late 90s, and yeah, I do everything nearly in the label from events to publishing sites, clearings, scheduling releases, finding new artists, helping especially other artists because it's quite hard at the right now to get famous or to get seen at least. So we always have the opportunity to give young talented artists a spot to show her their talents.
Wow.
Amazing. I'm just like so impressed that we are in both of your like we have both of you here. I'm so excited.
Yeah,
and
conversation goes first.
and Ovi, of course, one of our other mentors. Welcome, welcome.
Hello.
Oh, you're on mute.
I said one of these things is not like the other. But yeah, I'm happy to be here and looking forward to helping some of our mentees. And in
Yeah.
case for those audience members that don't know, in addition to being CEO of Record Shop, I'm a lifelong DJ. I started buying records and equipment when I was around 14 and started doing parties and DJed in clubs around New York, New Jersey area in the late 90s, early 2000s until I moved to Atlanta and got caught up on the rave scene. And so basically, I've been involved in those kind of circles for about 30 years at this point. And I about 5 years ago, I started releasing music, and I have some music out on cool labels like Black Hole Recordings and Perfecto, and a number of other cool labels, Joof, and so on and so forth. Mostly progressive house and trance, and a little bit of psytrance and whatnot. So I'm happy to chip in with advice about how to get signed to labels. I also run a label of my own, and I've been an event promoter for many years, so I can talk about like how to do all that stuff.
Awesome. So one big purpose of today's stream is to talk a little bit about the mentorship program, but really it's to get to know the three of you who are going to be mentors. And I would really like to take some of these clips that we're talking about today and reuse them on social media to promote the mentorship program. So as well, for anybody who's in the comments and watching in our audience today, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Your question might even get to be part of our social media campaign about this. So super pumped. So to kick us off, why don't we do everything kind of round robin? So we'll start DJ Rap, Juliet, and then OB each time. DJ Rap, can you tell us how you got your start in music? What drew you to it? Just kind of give us your history.
Okay, so I'll start by saying that I've done music my whole life. I started by watching my mother playing the piano and was always fascinated with music from day one. And then I progressed to, as a 5-year-old, holding the hairbrush in front of the mirror and being a pop star. So I think I've always wanted to do it. To be honest with you, I've never done anything else. This is all I've wanted to do. I think it's one of those things where some people discover it along the way by accident, and then some people just intuitively know that they want to do something with the performing arts. So for me, I intuitively knew, but I did not know it was going to be DJing and production. That was a surprise, and that happened accidentally when I started going raving in the 1988, sort of 1986 was my first rave. And I started going to all these magical raves, and it wasn't until I saw a particular set of DJs doing what they did. And I was watching these two DJs that were called Dem2, DEM and 2, and I was watching them, and no one had ever played a breakbeat record before. And I think if you remember the record, it was the Suzanne Vega, that da, 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 da. And they played that, and the place went nuts, and I'd never seen anything like it. And I remember standing there in the middle of the rave and just having this weird feeling in my stomach, and then having this like butterfly feeling, and then this aha moment. And I turned around to my friends and I went, that's what I want to do. And it just hit me like a bulb, because I realized that, you're giving this rush of energy out to people, this giant hug, but you're also receiving exactly what you put out to everybody. And it just felt like that is what I was supposed to do. So I discovered that through raving, and then I spent every minute, every penny. I waitressed. I I did factory work for a little while. I put Christmas tree bulbs in Christmas trees. I got up at 4 in the morning and caught a horrible bus to a factory job. And I worked everywhere I could to buy records and learn how to mix. And then I spent all my time until I found jobs in studios making coffee. And then I learned to cut tape, and then I learned to do everything you could do in a studio that way. So I came up the long, hard way, I guess you could say. But that was basically how I got into it. How I got my breaks was through pirate radio station. That's where I got my breaks, because in those days, pirate radio could reach millions of people, and the reach was really big. And I started off on Rave FM, and then I went to Fantasy FM, and I got a reputation for being good on there. And that was sort of how I broke into the scene. I mean, I couldn't even really mix very well. But we did these really fun shows, and I DJ'd with another girl called Stacey Tuff. And then I ended up doing my own show, and it just got really big from there. And this was at the time, you've got to remember that the rave scene was really coming into its own thing. I mean, my first record was Ambience the Adored, and that was 1988. And then my next record was on Perfecto. I was hanging out with Paul Oakenfold and all those cats, Carl Cox and everyone. And we were all, Mr. C, and it was all happening at the same time. So yeah, that's basically how I got into it and into the start of it.
Amazing. Thank you. Like, wow. What a story. I loved when you were explaining that moment when you were in the crowd. Like, I love that. I can really relate, not from a music perspective, but I can really relate with that just drove you.
Yeah. Still driving me.
That's a good thing. After so many years, if you still have this feeling.
Oh my God, even worse than before. That's the annoying thing. You'd think it would disappear. You'd be like, come on, you're a little bit older now. When are you going to retire? And you're like, nope. What am I? That's my biggest fear is I don't want to stop ever. So, I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. So yeah, I think it very much drives me. And I think, if you're passionate about something to the point where it is your calling, to the point where you've decided to give everything to it, you don't have and this, don't feel sad about this. This is choices that I've made to not have family, children, to just dedicate my life to this art, and that's all that I'm interested in is the entrepreneurship, the business end, the music end. This is all I'm interested in, and it's a very selfish thing in one way, but it's all I've ever wanted to do. So for me, it was just a good fit. I had a very screwed up childhood, so I would have made a terrible parent. So for me, it was perfect. But for someone who maybe is struggling with, should I have a family? Should I do this? I'm sure we'll get into these topics later about balance and how to work if you've got a family and how to work if you've got a job and how to do all those things. I will say this is a very, I'm sure Juliet will say the same. You have to have this one vision
Yeah,
and be
exactly.
really hard about it and obsessed with it. And you have to be in love with this because it can be that. And I said this the other day, it can be that toxic relationship where you just give and give and give. And sometimes you don't get anything back for years, it can be. And then
Mm,
suddenly it's all about you. It can be a toxic relationship. But if you love something, it's not about the money. It's about the creativity. It's about the
exactly.
journey. It's almost about how hard it is. So yeah, those are some interesting points, but I want to let Juliet get so.
Yeah, I wanted to say to on the topic. For me, my experience, any pain I receive or pushback from other artists or even the audience or the people around you, it makes you stronger at the end of the day. I think you grow with any pain. Oh, my cat, sorry. with, with any pain you receive, it makes you stronger at the end of the day. But to come back to me, well, where I start, I think it started my love to electronic music when I found out when I was, I think, 4 or 5. Jean-Michel Jarre cassette from my dad, and they gave me like Christmas present a cassette tape where I could record as well, and yeah, I was listening to this mix like or this cassette like every day, and then I started to record from the radio my own mixes. Like I cut my own mixes when I heard a track I liked, I recorded it. So it started like at a very very early age. I never expected that this maybe is giving the path for my future to be a DJ and a producer. But I have to be honest. First, I was a dancer before I've been a DJ. So, but I started to get interested what a DJ is doing, and I found it so interesting that a friend of mine showed me like the first step how you start to DJ. But he said I can't show you a lot because the most of the stuff you have to learn yourself, like how to beat match, to know which record fits the other record, and I nearly have the same way. I worked in a cafe and bar to buy my vinyls because it was super expensive back in the days. It wasn't like the buying an MP3 or a wave. You bought a vinyl because of one track, but there were 4 on it.
Mm,
So and yeah, so it was a tough way for me, especially in Germany, because there were not so many female artists. And I have to be honest, the way was pretty hard and bumpy for me because the male artists didn't make it easy for us to step in the front. And this is my experience, especially. But I choose the hard way because I had a dream, and the dream was I wanted to be a DJ and I wanted to make people happy with the music I love, to share my joy I have when I'm DJing. And then I started to produce because the one thing came with the other thing. And to be honest, I'm more a DJ than a producer. I can produce, but I get annoyed when I hear like 3 hours the same claps or hi hats. So I get pretty quick annoyed to be in the studio. So that's why I need so long to produce tracks. Because when you work like the whole day for your label, and then you go in the evening and start producing. So yeah, I'm not very calm with this.
That's why I separate my day out in specific, because you have to have mental breaks. So I use the first part of my day up until maybe 1 o'clock for myself. Then
Yeah.
1 o'clock to like 6, 7 o'clock is all emails, admin, label, social media, all the stuff that comes with running a business. And then I'll have a 2 hour break, and then I'll go to the studio at like 10 o'clock at night, and I'll split my studio sessions into sketching and into production. Because if I'm just sketching and writing, it's fun. I don't have to worry about, is this the right snare? Is this the right compression? Is this the right EQ? I just enjoy, and I just I just write ideas. And then when I've got days where I'm not doing the admin, that's when I tackle the sound design and the more laborious part of the engineering side of things, because it can be really boring. I don't know. And you have to be completely sober to do that shit. It's really hard to do if you've had a drink. Like, I don't know
Wow.
if any
To
of
be
you
honest,
have tried.
I thought when I was in the studio and I was drinking, I thought I produced the most amazing track in the world, and it will be a #1 track in the world. This is the feeling I went out of the studio. 2 days later, you listen to the track and you said, "Fuck,
The
what's
snare.
wrong with you?" Yeah. So yeah, and what can I say more about me? Yeah, my journey is still going. So it's still didn't the end is not near. So especially during Corona, I have to say, or COVID, I had a feeling like, okay, you still love it, because I missed it so much that it showed me that yeah, I still live my dream, because I do what I love, and I think this is the highest topic you can get in when you work. You wake up every morning. The first thing, because before I brush my teeth, I check my emails, check my Instagram or my Twitter, whatever. Yeah, this is my life.
I'm seeing a comment where Phileas Froggs is saying, "What you got to drink, girl?" And I'll tell you an interesting story about alcohol and drugs with music, and why actually what happens is a game changer when you actually don't do that. So, I'm not going to pretend that I've been a saint, but let's put it this way. I would go out, party, and the next day go to the studio. And a lot of my biggest records were made that way, where I was still a little bit vibrating on the night before. And then I met an artist a long time ago. We got signed to our labels the same day, called BT, Brian Transo, sort of king of trance. I mean, anyone who knows anything about trance music knows this guy is a god. And, he told me, he's like, when you're in balance with yourself and you're really, I don't know about you, Julia, or Obi, but when you make a track, have you noticed how you instantly know what the next step is? Like, you'll start making a track and you just know what's next, and you know what's next, and you know what's next. When you're completely clear and present, I'm not saying you can't have a little.
Muse can talk to you, I think, is
Yeah.
the language I use, is that when you're right with the universe, then the muse can talk to you and you can talk to her, and it flows, right? And then just everything happens like magic, and it's almost like you're just the vessel that creative energy is flowing through, and it all just works. And if you're not in balance, and a lot of times people use substances because they're not in balance,
Exactly.
you can't tap the muse, so you're kind of forcing it.
Yeah, so that, I'm just saying, it's a really different experience, and one I would encourage you to try, and then get shit faced after if you must. But
Now,
like,
on the other hand, if you're trying to make psytrance, you should definitely try psychedelics. Because I've met people that, or like, if you're trying to make trance, you should probably have tried MDMA at least once or twice. That might be a controversial opinion, but like, if you don't use some of those enhancements, like, you don't really know what your audience is feeling, because a lot of them are using those things, right?
Yeah, but I think everybody has gone to a rave, and I think it's one thing to experience things as a fan. It's another thing to try and operate machinery and plugins when you're high. It's difficult. So
Been
I mean,
there, not a good experience.
yeah. No, it's like trying to drive an airplane and you're like, what the fuck, gears everywhere. No, so I mean, look, I think we've all gone to raves and experienced that, and I'm not going to encourage people to do one thing or another. That's your path that you're on. What I will say is my music has exponentially grown and got better since I was more in balance and clear with myself. And I make it a point to be clear when I'm making music, because it takes so much concentration with the type of music these days. It's a completely different animal now doing sound design than it was 20 years ago. People were just sampling everything off Akai's and you just had a vibe and that was great. And there was a producer and it's a very different animal now. It's an introvert experience. You're on your own with a lot of plugins and they require diligent discipline and work to know how everything works. Otherwise your equipment will run you. And if you really want to be at one with your DAW, and for those of you who don't know, your digital audio workstation, then you really have to spend time studying that stuff. And a lot of it's laborious. So it's very hard to do when you're fucked up. So if you're asking me what's better and what about absinthe, which I saw in the comments, I mean, feel free to experiment and come to your own conclusions. I'm just passing my info along.
Oh, okay.
You're on mute again, Obi.
I think it's my turn, but
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I took piano lessons as a kid for a couple of years. Didn't really like it, but gave me a musical foundation. Then I played in orchestra in middle school and band and so on and so forth. So I kind of always had that. But growing up on the outskirts of New York City in the late 80s, early 90s, like the popular music around us was early hip hop, kind of boom bap stuff, freestyle, which is kind of a regional dance music that wasn't really heard outside of New York, New Jersey, Florida, and California. Some people call it Florida breaks in its later incarnation. But, it was kind of like this vocal, very poppy driven, mostly breakbeat. And of course, New York house and, club music and, the popular music of the day. So that was kind of like what moved me. And coming from a Latin family, Cuban background, like there was a lot of music on all the time. I mean, as a little kid, I was listening to rumba and cha-cha-cha and stuff with, my grandmother's records. So very musical household. And then my cousin Frank, rest in peace, was a disco DJ. And we used to go to my great aunt's house. And this just goes to show you how things mold your life in certain directions. So, as a little kid, I was kind of nerdy and really into electronics and things like that. And I used to love going over my great aunt Juana's house because Frank was a DJ and he had this huge record collection. I mean, like filled every wall space of the garage. And he had this like big console with turntables and he had these racks of equipment and these giant speakers. So as a little kid, I mean, I was probably like 7, 8 years old. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool, right? Like I'd pull the records and he was really nice. Like he'd teach me how to use the mixer. He'd let me pull the records out and put them on the turntable and stuff like that. And it just really made me want to be a DJ. So at 14, I bought my first turntables, really shitty Gemini belt driven turntables and a little side, Radio Shack 2-channel mixer, no EQ or anything like that. And I started doing parties, for my friends, church events and, things like that. And just kind of built up. And I managed to hustle and get myself some club gigs. I was doing a lot of Latin music, so a lot of merengue, salsa, cumbia, stuff like that. So and what's really good about DJing that music, especially when you're starting out, is that it's very, very intensely about the dancing, right? So your selection and your blending and your feel for the crowd has to be really, really on point. Otherwise, you get these dramatic, clearing the floor moments because, it's a pair driven sort of thing. And like, if you don't keep them dancing, like, okay, they're ready to move on. You can clear the floor really easily. So especially DJing merengue and salsa and stuff in New York City. Like I had once that the plug got knocked out of my equipment and it just stopped with like 800 people on the floor. Like moments like that give you like a real appreciation for keeping your cool. I got flashbacks to that at a big event where the power kept going out and afterwards people are like, we really got a lot of respect for you because, like, during your 2 hour set, the power went out 4 times and you were able to just recover. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, well, 30 years of knowing what to do when the power goes out. You just got to keep it cool and keep, turn it back on. But yeah, no, DJing's always been part of my life. I started buying equipment in 2001. I actually met BT at a club called Halo in Atlanta.
Halo, I know it.
He was part of my inspiration. We sat and talked and had drinks for about an hour. He was not in DJ mode. He was just in hangout mode. And his equipment had just gotten stolen. He was going and we had this long, deep conversation. He's just like this awesome guy. He's one of my favorite artists, by the way. So, yeah, no, I started producing around 2001 and MIDI equipment and things like that, and posting music online. I'm incredibly embarrassed and glad that a lot of that's like deeply buried. But, in 2000, in about 2017, I moved to Mexico City and I made some life changes. And a friend of mine got really mad at me because I wasn't pursuing music, and I decided to listen to him and started working on my music career as a producer and actually releasing music. And yeah, then that brought me to where we are today. Like, I was basically able to, about a year ago, combine my passion for music with my career as a technologist, and the resources that I have, to be able to start companies. And here we are.
Wow.
Exactly.
Damn. I'm like just so excited. So my next question, if Crystal wasn't at Crystal Castles, who's like organizing this whole mentorship program, if she wasn't telling you what boxes you're ticking for the mentorship and what you're supposed to do, what area would you like to focus on as a mentor for the women who are the mentees? Sorry, Rap. I know you just walked away right as I was asking it.
I can go first.
Yeah, I just
Sure.
don't know who.
So the other, so yeah, I mean, I'll keep mine super brief. I mean, I'm kind of like the odd man out in a way, but I just want to help in terms of practical knowledge from someone that, even though I have a long grounding as a DJ and kind of have been in the scene and promoting and stuff like that, I'm somewhat newer as an artist, right? So I have fairly recent memories to draw upon when it comes to the whole demo submission process and like figuring out what labels to talk to and what style should I do, and should I make an alias or not, and how should I think about DJ gigs and and whatnot, and also just in terms of how much of a team effort it can be. So even though learning and getting good at your craft is definitely an introspective activity, and I 100% agree with Rap about learning your tools, and it just takes a lot of time investment. Making a big career and really going for it, like, you're not going to do that by yourself. You're going to need the support of a lot of people.
Yeah.
So understanding what kind of help to take, what kind of help not to take, who to emulate, what kind of practice, what kind of support to get in the studio. Turns out that learning the 80% of songwriting and making music is relatively easy, and that last 20% can take you the rest of your life. It's really hard to finish. And Rap's right on the ball. Like, these days, the standards for sound design and your mix and a lot of those technical decisions is very, very high, which means that in the initial part of your career, you're gonna be very frustrated. And I was very, very frustrated until I started getting help, essentially from people that had already made that journey, right?
Yes.
And then once I got the right kind of help, I was able to make like big strides that were confidence boosters, and that confidence is super, super important. So if you never get that help, I can help you like kind of think about how to approach that, and how to look at building your network.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you. Juliet?
Yeah, well, for me, I think one really important thing which I would love to show is how a label works. Like, what you have to take care if you sign for a label, how you contact a label, how you read a contract, especially because no one, most of the younger artists don't know how to read a contract, what is important, what you have to look at, especially. I think I also can help to provide all the mistakes I did, as a DJ and producer, to help, like even to find your way, like what kind, because a lot of artists struggle in this underground hole, I would say it. Everyone wants to be super underground, but some people, the music they love, on which the music they like to play and produce, is not typically underground. And if you are not underground and going more mainstream, or yeah, in a wider range, I would say, like I DJ, when I DJ, I play from deep house to techno, everything is possible. I play what I love, and I think you have to be open-minded and surprise people, and especially I can show the people how to DJ and surprise people, because you don't have to be in one genre. This is You don't need it, be flexible, and I think the most important is surprise the audience.
It's awesome.
That's really, really good. I
Yeah.
mean, I want to listen in on everything you say. I'm glued. I'm glued. I think people, yeah, there's so much there. But you said something I thought was really, really interesting. A lot of times when people play, they a lot of times people don't produce what they actually play. If you're a DJ, it's really, really important to put those two in balance. And I've made that mistake many times where I've produced all these different genres, but
Yeah.
that's not actually what I DJ. Or because, and so it took me a long time to settle down and find my groove. And it might take you a really long time to find what you're actually good at. And that doesn't mean you should just stick in one lane, because these days it's completely accepted to play a dubstep track and then a trap track and then a house track, and then you can do that in certain areas and arenas, that's acceptable. But in drum and bass, in jungle, in techno, in house, there's specific genres. So I would say to people who are just starting out, this is just something that you made me think about, that really was a problem for me for many years in my career, because I was just all over the
Too.
place,
For me
all
too,
over the
sure.
place. It's completely schizophrenic musically. And I had some I had some big help from some very big people who are like, look, you got to just focus a little bit, and I think that's a problem people have. And one of the resources that I think is really good is a Beatport. You can go on Beatport because it's so user friendly, and you can look at every genre and just study that top 100 and get a feel for what each genre does. If you're like, I don't know where to start, I don't know, I like music, and that's great. If you like music, those broad strokes are awesome. But I think if you really want to understand what all the genres are and then the subgenres, find a platform like that and just spend a little time studying, because when you play what you produce, you're really vibrating at that level. You know what I mean? It's an interesting level to get to when you're actually happy to pull your record out first. And if you don't want to pull your record out first, that sort of is a telling as well. It sort of lets you know that maybe I mean, I know, Obi, you probably remember this. Like back in the day, genres weren't loose at all. Like I was one of the first people to make different genres. I got a lot of stick for it, a lot of stick. And now genres are like, looser, like you're mentioning, and you can do that. But there's still a lot of genres where you it's very rigid. You know what I mean? Like you can't make a vocal in this, and it's it's still a bit like that. Like because of
I'm from the trance world. I know all about the rigid genres.
okay, so you know what I mean. I mean, you've got because of Spotify and streaming and the pandemic, funnily enough, I think there's something about rap. I think because of the because of the streaming capabilities, we were allowed to suddenly stream whatever we wanted, and not everyone wants to be boom, boom, boom in the club. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, I can stream for 5 hours liquid and drum and bass or vocals or this, or mix it up. I can play whatever I want, because suddenly that changed a lot of things. So I think it's cool. But going back to the original question of what do I want to do for the mentorship, I think a bit of everything, really. I would love to talk about More I would love to talk about whatever problems people are facing. So if they want to start, what's the reality of running a label? Some of the simple things you can do to protect yourself from a legal point of view, so you don't end up getting screwed in this industry, that are very simple to do. So I would like to be able to offer all the mistakes that I've made and maybe find out what people are interested in learning from. So whether it's running a label, how to get started, how expensive is it, how do I protect myself when I go into a writing session, what's the reality of work life and balance, how can I protect myself mentally from this, because you are going to need to do that, how do I get an agent, how do I get a gig, do I need a manager? I mean, ask me anything, production questions as well, more about like how important is sound design versus sketching and how does that work out. I mean, I think we all have the same issues. And so, yeah, basically what people want to know about that. I'm happy to talk about whatever really people are finding challenging in their career.
That's awesome. I really picked up on like each of you were saying, here's some mistakes I made, here are the lessons I learned, and that's what I want to give back to say I've already learned this. I've already like that was shitty. I can help people get past that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you have to share your experience, so because I trust in the universe and karma, and I think we only can make it better for everyone if we share our mistakes. I don't want that someone else feels the pain I felt sometimes when you when you are a loser in your decision, because the worst thing I had was going after a genre which was very hyped. That was around 2005, electro house, and I hated electro house. I hated. And the worst experience I had, it was a momentum for me, staying behind the DJ booth, playing music I don't like,
Oh,
and
it's the
I
worst.
went under the DJ booth and I grabbed my head and said, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And this was the day I stopped playing electro house. So, but this is the worst experience I ever had, playing music I don't like, because I wanted to be respected, accepted in the scene. And this is a big, big mistake to make.
I remember getting signed when the pressure, sometimes you're forced to do that. I was signed to Sony at the time, and they really didn't know what to do with me. They were like, we want to make you the first electronic star in America. And I was up there with Fatboy Slim, Lisa Left Eye, was on Calvin Klein billboards. It was all going well, but no one really knew what to do with me. So I got put in stadiums to play my instrumentals, drum and bass, with my vocals over alongside Enrique Iglesias and Christine Aguilera. It did not go down well. That's all I'm going to say. It did not go down well. It was, people were confused. Like, I was playing in the middle of like, Red Hot Chili Peppers. And then, when all the bands go off and you have a sort of intermediate DJ at a massive festival whilst the bands are resetting up, that's where I got placed. And it was just confusing. And it was actually one of the unhappiest times of my life, because here
Yeah,
I am
true.
doing massive record deals and having these opportunities, but suddenly everybody wanting me to be more commercial. And I'm just like, hold on a minute, that's not what I agreed to. And it wasn't really having a manager that understood where I came from. It was just like, she managed Aerosmith, Carly Simon, Duran Duran, and me. It was like, it was a weird experience. It took a while for me to put my foot down and say what I actually wanted to do and how my vision, and it took some real balls to turn around and go, that's not what I'm going to do.
Exactly.
And that's really hard when you have a record company that has paid you a lot of money, and you sold 3 million records, and they think they're right and they know everything, and they are right about a lot of things. But I also think that we have to be strong individuals with our artistry and vision continuously throughout our career, not just at certain points, but all the time. You have to have this unbelievable faith in yourself, and and then you also have to be prepared to listen when but if you're not being fucked up by drugs, not being fucked up by all the distractions, and you're really centered, that's a lot easier to do. You know what I mean? To just have this is my path, I know what I'm doing.
Wow. Yeah.
That's useful.
Yeah, no, totally. Like, I think
was one cool moment though. I was on this. It all came together. I was on the stage. David Bowie was doing drum and bass. He'd made a drum and bass album, and I played with him in New York. We performed together. And that was the moment where I was like, I've figured out how to do this now. And he turned around and he winked at me, and I literally slid off my chair like, oh my God. So that was a pivotal moment. And I started realizing I could put my vocals to drum and bass and how I could make it work. Again, all the mistakes we make are what. And another thing, I had a disastrous episode in Holland. I think it was the Black and White Festival in front of something like 350,000 people. Carl Cox was playing before me, and the promoter was putting me on. It was at the height of learning curve when I was signed to Sony. And I was like, listen, this is a techno festival. It was techno. I've practiced. I've got a bunch of techno. I know what I want to play. It's great. And the promoter's like, no, 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 no. We want you to do your album live. It'll be great. And I'm like, I just don't think. And that's the last time I didn't listen to myself. And I got on and I did exactly. And I watched 250,000 people leave. And that's pretty embarrassing. This will be the first time I play in Holland since that fiasco. Tomorrow I'm flying to Holland to play. And it's the first time that I've been invited that I get to play again. So
It'll
yeah,
be your redemption.
it happens. Stuff happens,
Yeah.
but you can't, you got to turn around and go, okay, that's the lesson. Don't listen to anyone but yourself. Gut, man.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally
Bad
agree.
Yeah, bad advice is kind of rampant in this field, isn't it? Like I had a manager that, for a couple of years, that I'm not sure what he was feeling that he was getting out of the relationship, but he was making a lot of calls that, basically pushing me to do EDM, like big room style EDM. And I was like, man, that's not my jam. Like, I'm more of a trance guy. I have been for many years. That's the kind of parties I throw in Atlanta and stuff like that. He's like, trance sucks. No one listens to trance. It's like young people don't listen to trance, all this stuff. And the straw that broke the camel's back was that he insulted John Askew, who's like one of the most powerful people in trance. I saw your eyes open up, right? Like, he's even powerful beyond trance in certain ways, right? But he insulted him on social media, and I had been trying to work out some things with John, and I got a WhatsApp from John saying, "Are you still working with this person?" And I was like,
no.
You're like, nope.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bad advice, and there's a lot of people who think they know what they're talking about, and being able to sort out the good from the bad and know when is the right time to listen to your gut and your instinct and stay authentic is really important.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people that have well-meaning advice because it worked well for their other artists. And, if you're on it's kind of like a factory thing, isn't it? It's like, when you go to a major record deal or something, it's like, it's a well-oiled machine. So what works for one tends to work for the other pop artist. And yeah, we'll do this amount of radio play, we'll do this, and that works. But when you've got an electronic artist and it's a completely new genre, that necessarily won't gel with them. So it is difficult, because I think everyone when I had that experience, I know they meant well. No one was out to they meant well. They wanted the best success for me, and we all wanted the same goal. So it wasn't that they were giving me bad advice. They just didn't know. And that's another thing. Nobody knows everything, so.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And especially with
Go ahead, Juliet.
Especially with the majors, my experience is because because this and the artists who signing with majors, especially for electronic music. Normally I don't have the feeling they understand the scene, because it's like people who do like very poppy themes, and they're very good in doing pop stuff, but they are really bad in doing stuff for electronic music, because the electronic music scene is working completely different. And this is what majors, in my opinion, now start to understand, but they're still not there.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't want to give away too many secrets before we start the mentorship program.
Trust me,
But this has been.
You would need 28 million years before you give all this.
But can we
scraping the surface only?
Yeah. So can you leave us all with one tip that you would give to an upcoming producer? I know we've already got a few today, but we'll just end it. We'll probably end it in the next 10 minutes or so, but what would be your one top tip that you would give to an upcoming producer? Obi, are you
Should
ready? You're nodding. I'm assuming you're
Yeah.
ready to give a tip.
Oh man, I have a few. I was hoping I'd have a minute to choose one, but I'll just have to choose one. So get help. So like one of the most common side hustles for working musicians, even more successful musicians than you might even think, like people who have chart hits and followings and stuff like that, is tutoring, and kind of helping with your work as a up and coming producer. If it's if what you're doing is vocalists, I know that there's vocalists that will help you and stuff like that. Get help.
Yeah.
Not only are you doing them a favor by paying them, which is probably paying their rent and stuff, like you're also benefiting from their experience, and like they're going to be able to correct things right away. That was my experience. Like for a long time I thought, until I learned to do this myself, like I said before, I started in 2001, and I was kind of treating it as a hobby, and I could never get to the point where I felt satisfied to actually share my music and play it out. And then after the first few tutorial sessions with my first tutor, it was like boom, like all those years of accumulated experience, I was able to break through so many obstacles and feel like, oh my god, glory opened up. I started like getting more confident, and I started finishing some songs and whatnot, and that was led to a lot of good results. So yeah, definitely get help. It's not as expensive as you might even think. Like some people will give you tutoring help for 20, 30, $40 an hour sort of thing. Like it's very approachable.
Thanks. Juliet, do you have one?
Yes, trust in yourself, trust in your gut feelings. And honestly, it sounds like random, but this is my experience. Trust in your dreams, and if you want your dreams come true, they will come true, even if it's a stony way. And you say often to yourself like, "No, I will never make it. I have to stop." You are exhausted of trying and trying and trying. But one day there will be the changing point coming, and then you understand everything. You understand why you put so much energy, so much effort into your whole career. So yeah, trust in yourself.
By the way, someone in the chat said buy followers and viewers and stuff. Do not do that. That's
I have removed that bot.
Yeah, it's a bot. It's the worst advice anyone can
Yeah.
give. Actually,
Yeah,
no
for
approvals, and
sure.
everyone can check the real stats. And if they see that you're fake, you're done, and you only get one chance to listen to anyone. So, and the best way to know if someone's got fake followers and all that is you simply look at how many responses they get based per how many followers they have. So, if someone's got like 500,000 followers, but 10 people respond to a tweet. Yeah, that person's an idiot. So, I think the best advice I can give. There's so many. I'm like Obi on this one. But, don't let it swallow you whole. If you can, try to keep yourself a little bit separate from your artist persona. I failed at this miserably, and I'm paying for it every day. Try not to let your artist side take over who you are as a person, and make sure you still have a social life, and try to do some small just try to keep some identity, because what happens as you got older, you can really suffer from loss of identity, trying to recapture your career and stuff like that. And it can be a real mental strain. I've experienced that, luckily clawed my way back and stuff like that. But you gotta, don't just let it swallow you whole. Be authentic to yourself and get help. All those 3 points. I mean,
Yeah.
But do try to not ignore all the great stuff that happens in your life in your 20s and your 30s in pursuit of this one goal, which is hard if all you care about is this goal, because that can bite you on the ass later when you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. So be prepared that one day you will always be able to make music, but make sure you have a life alongside of your music.
Yeah.
That's fantastic advice for anybody who wants to hear more. For any of our women who are listening, I should say, who want to hear more, you can apply for our mentorship program. Juliet, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I played this weekend my first US tour. So I play in San Diego, in Los Angeles, and in Seattle. So if you're around, come say hi.
Your San Diego after party should be at Phileas Fogg's bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of our friends who are in the comments over here, he owns a bar in San Diego. We should get you connected. Are you on our Discord?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's on our
Not
Discord.
yeah, I'm on Discord, but not so regular. But yes, I am there.
I'll send you an email. And DJ Rap, you've got
Okay.
some stuff coming up soon
I just
too.
wanted to thank everyone who's buying the NFT packs. Really appreciate the support. With
Yeah.
that, we've all worked really hard on them, and I'm excited to see what you guys think of them. So thanks for your support with the NFT packs. I do have a record out right now as well called Pull It Up, which you can get on Beatport, which is doing really well. And I appreciate the support in that. And man, I just appreciate the support. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. If you want to know what's going on with my tribe, go to my website, djrap.com, click join the tribe, where I endlessly supply my tribe with wonderful content, streams, piano concerts, video and studio sessions, and all kinds of goodies. So do check it out. And thanks for your support, guys. Appreciate it.
And I do not have new music coming out that I do personally. However, I have the next big best thing, which I've just gotten a batch of remixes back from some of my classic material, especially on
Awesome.
Eva. Have Ahmed Helmi, who's a really, really hot trance producer right now. It's gotten a lot of ASOT play, doing some really interesting stuff with my music on Ava, and that's going to land on Record Shop sometime in the next couple of months. So super excited about that.
Yay! I don't have anything. I'm just
That's a
here.
Lovely, Lisa.
Find me here. All right, folks. Well, we're gonna go and raid our friends over at Tidy Tracks, who are playing right now.
Love Tidy.
So stay tuned for that. Warning: that channel is intended for mature audiences, so careful. But thanks everyone again for joining us. We will see you on the other side.
No
Bye,
problem.
guys.
Thanks for having us.